Who's doing the intro?
You can do it.
What episode are we on? 24?
Yeah, not now.
Alright. Episode 24?
Yeah.
Alright. That's it?
Yeah, it's done.
Is that okay? I guess. Welcome to episode 24 of Cooperators. Sorry for the really delayed intro. We're still kind of groggy from attempting to get SNES classics like a month ago. With me, as always, is Chuck and Dice.
Hello.
And I'm Augmented Biscuits. And
Yep.
we are here to talk about and rub it in everyone's face who didn't get one SNES classic that each of us, including our friend Johnny 5, got two.
Yep, we got two. We put up a special about the journey of us getting the SNES Classic, and in that, I guess you can special. It's only like 15 minutes. You guys can go listen to it. Don't listen to it now, obviously.
Run them both at the same time. Screw
But,
it. Get the feedback. Get the screw up your computers.
But we wanted to. We basically said at the end of it, we're gonna go try. We went to Palmdale. We said we're gonna go and try to get one at Lancaster, and we drove to about 7 miles up to Lancaster.
So we got the Palmdale one, and
Yeah.
then we drove, and then the Lancaster
Yeah.
Walmart is 7 miles away from the Palmdale, so we drove there.
We just drove residential streets over there, and then ended up picking up another one. Now, before you guys say that, what are you gonna do? Scalp it? No, I gave mine to a friend of mine whose birthday was coming up, and he was going out of town. So I basically gave that to him because he really wanted one. Because, like myself, he never owned one as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
What did you do with yours?
Well, I know Johnny 5. He gave one to his brother-in-law,
Right.
Because him and his brother-in-law actually, he was telling us him and his brother both had fond memories of growing up with the Super Nintendo.
Right.
That's actually a very big thing with Mexican families. Usually, Johnny 5 and I kind of had similar backgrounds. Like, our families didn't really have a lot of money,
Right.
and things like that were really expensive for us to get.
It's $200 back in the day.
Yeah, and getting games was even more expensive. So you got the system, and then once you got the system, you had to wait until
Christmas or your birthday.
And unfortunately for me, my birthday was so close to Christmas, and sometimes my parents would actually say, "Oh, this is your Christmas and your birthday present."
Yeah.
So
hopefully they gave you one good game.
Well, actually, it was funny. One year, I think the best Christmas that ever happened was one year they gave us Super Mario Brothers 2 and 3 on Christmas, and then another Christmas they gave us it was around the time after the SNES launched, and we had gotten they weren't good games, but they were still actually pretty fun to play. Like, there was Pilot Wings, and we also got Spider-Man and the X-Men versus Arcade.
Yeah. Spider-Man the X-Men versus Arcade. And
both games were fucking hard.
Yeah, those are hard game, yeah.
But I think the funniest year was probably when we got Donkey Kong Country. It was the year that it launched, and we got it for Christmas, and that was actually really fun. But so Johnny 5 gave his to his brother-in-law, and then I actually gave my second one to a friend of mine. We've actually been friends for quite a long time. We actually met queuing for THQ when it was still open. We go way back, and
this is Proto Man, right?
Yeah, this is Proto Man. Yeah. He asked me to get one for him, and I always got his back, so I was able to snag one for him. He was really excited because, again, he also grew up with the SNES, and he actually was more heavy on the RPGs on the SNES than anything
There's
else.
A lot of RPGs on this game.
Like he was excited for Super Metroid because he's like, oh, I never really played Super Metroid. He's like, I heard it was really good. I don't think he had much exposure to Link to the Past.
Right.
But he did like it. But his favorite game is actually Secret of Mana and Final Fantasy 3, or in Japan 6. So he's really crazy about both of those games. So he was like really excited. Again, I at one point was thinking about just kind of keeping it, not scalping it, but just keeping it as like a backup because I have kids and my kids destroy everything. But I'm actually glad I gave it away because he was really happy about it. But
yeah, it brings a smile to someone's face.
yeah, we had a lot of good time. We have a review of the system itself, and we have some kind of mini reviews and just kind of general overview of the games we've played. But first, we actually want to talk about a really good sci-fi show. I know Checking Dice, you brought this up in the last episode.
So yeah, we wanted to talk a little bit about the Orville, which is the Seth MacFarlane show. Mm-hmm. I'm a huge fan. I mean, as you know, I'm a huge fan of all things Star Trek and such.
No, you're not. Do you have the USS Enterprise in your apartment?
Yeah, it's right over there.
Oh shit! You have like
there's
four.
There's another one right over there, by the way.
I think you
there's
have
one over there.
I think you have like 7.
There's another one right there.
I think you have like 7 versions of the USS Enterprise in your apartment.
Yeah, and I have a Voyager plaque from the actual show that was given to the crew. I got a phaser.
I'm just disappointed you don't have a model of the Galaxy Quest ship.
The Galaxy. Well, that's hard to find. I don't think they actually made one.
Why don't you build one, Superfan?
Well, I used to play the Star Trek customizable card game, and I actually did create the Galaxy Quest crew and the ship. I designed them and gave it to a person who could print them. I've since lost, I lost all contact with this person, but he made those cards for me, and now I can actually play Star Trek the customizable card game with the Galaxy Quest crew.
How much money do you think you can get if you sold those online?
I don't think really that much. I mean, they're not that high quality. I mean, I could show you afterwards what they look like, but I mean, you could still see that they're the Galaxy Quest crew.
But they're not shit quality either.
No, they're not crap quality. They're actually really good. I got that made, and I got the 2009 Star Trek crew made as well. So basically, I have a deck made out of cards that never existed in the game, which is a whole lot of fun for me. But one of those nerds who are like a tournament guy will just say, those aren't regulation cards. Like, screw you, man. This game hasn't been made since the 2000s.
And then you give them a Starfleet Academy regulation kick in the nuts.
Yep, that's what I do.
All right, speaking of Orville.
So speaking of Orville, I talked about it a little bit, and it's getting a lot of flack in reviews and such, particularly after, I guess, Star Trek Discovery just premiered, which I didn't catch because... First of all, I didn't know that they were going to do the premiere on CBS, and from what I heard, they only did one half of the premiere. Hey, what's up, Vic? How's it going? Vic's joining us.
Hey, Vic.
Yeah, they showed the half of the pilot, and then the rest of the pilot was on the CBS streaming network.
Wait, so they played half of the episode, or was the pilot 2?
It was a 2-hour pilot, so it's basically 2 hours tacked together, and they basically showed it. And from what I was told by people who saw it, they said that it really wasn't an episode. It was more like a prelude to the show. And like some of them said, or most of them said, like, I'm not going to really stick around and pay for them.
Why would they only show it online, though? Why is this an online only? Like, who would sit down?
So
I don't get it. I don't get CBS's decision to do this.
The head of CBS, I think, is Les Moves. I don't know his name. He said that they wanted to start a new way of watching television, and obviously their version of it is to create their own streaming network. And now you cannot get this through like your cable like subscription, because sometimes if you have a cable subscription, you can get the HBO app for free and stuff like that, and you can watch on your your phone or whatnot. But in this case, this is a separate streaming network that you have to pay, much like Netflix or Amazon Prime or Hulu.
But you can only watch it online.
You can only watch it online. There's apps everywhere on every on every device. But it's $9.99 a month with, I think, commercials, or no, without commercials, I think, and maybe $5.99 with, or something like that. There's not a lot of content on there that I want to watch except for Star Trek. So what I figured I would do is just wait until it just comes out on Amazon so I can buy, and I'll just watch it on my own accord. Unfortunately, they're not doing that. They're basically saying you have to get this network to watch these episodes. So now I have to wait until the end of the season, or I hear that they're actually going to do a little midpoint hiatus. So they're going to do like 6 episodes, hiatus, and the other 6 episodes.
It sounds like they really don't want it to succeed.
Well, it's more of like we want our network to succeed, and we know like the fan base is fanatical enough to maybe stick around and make that a success. Okay, I guess. But in the meantime, I have this network show called Orville, which has the same flavor of Star Trek, which a lot of the people who worked on Star Trek The Next Gen is working on the show, along with a lot of comedy writers. Now, it is produced by Seth MacFarlane, and people have something against Seth MacFarlane.
Yeah.
I don't really understand it myself. I'm not a big fan of Family Guy or anything like that. I've seen the first 2 seasons, and then I was like, okay, that's great. Mm-hmm. I do think he's, funny. I've seen him host award shows and such, so I don't have anything against him. I didn't go see Ted. I didn't go see that one Western that he did. But I heard he was doing this, and I actually have seen him moderate Q&As with the Star Trek writers before, and I think he did a really good job, and he knows the subject matter. So he created this show with some of the veterans from Star Trek TNG, the writers. And it's got that same flavor. It's basically Star Trek, but with a little bit more of comedic touch. The only way I can describe it is it's kind of like MASH. If you ever watched MASH before, that's like back in the day, that was like a late 70s, early 80s sitcom that took place in the Korean War. In fact, I think MASH ran longer than the Korean War, which is funny. And it had that doctor kind of like drama vibe, that hospital vibe, but it also took place in the war, but it was also very comedic because in times of tension, when you do something funny, it seems to be more funny when you're in that kind of situation. So Orville is that kind of show, and I don't know, I've been actually really enjoying it. Mm-hmm. I think for me, a show like Next Gen, you can't make that again. Because it was kind of I don't want to say it's of its time, but I think people's taste have changed, and I don't think they readily want to accept characters like that. Because in Next Gen, I always called them as the utopian characters. They're characters that don't work for money. They're out there to better themselves, and in one of the mandates of Star Trek Next Gen that Gene Roddenberry put down was there can't be any kind of conflict between the characters. So if you've seen original Star Trek or even the movies with the original crew, you notice always Bones and Leonard Nimoy, Spock would always be at odds with each other. That's that's been ported over to the new 2009 Star Trek stuff, and you also have Kirk in conflict with either Bones or Spock. So They told these writers who were big fans of the original shows okay, so don't do that kind of stuff. And they're like, well, when you do screenplay writing and you study it, the main thing they say is the most important thing is conflict. So now the characters have no conflict. So they have to figure out different ways to create that conflict. And they did succeed. I feel they succeeded at that point, but I feel that if you made that show today, that people probably wouldn't gravitate toward it, especially with shows like Game of Thrones or The Walking Dead, Mad Men. Those are shows that are embroiled in conflict, constant conflict, and people are loving those shows. Now with Orville here, you have an opportunity to do a show where you can put tons and tons of conflict, like the main character of the show, Ed Mercer, his I guess ex-wife Kelly is the second in command. So right there, you have a level of just an uncomfortable sort of relationship, and yeah, it sort of works. I think that's the thing that Next Gen was probably missing to make it more of a timeless show. So I don't know. I'm really digging it so far. You said you checked out one of the episodes, right?
I did check out one of the episodes, and my initial reaction when they announced it was going to be. And they actually kind of marketed towards this too, I don't think they did a very good job of trying to market it as kind of from the guy who brought you all these funny shows that is very much high school and college humor.
Yeah.
Comes a Star Trek style show.
Yeah.
So it was kind of marketed as what a Galaxy Quest TV show would be.
Right.
But then I caught the recommendation of my wife. I actually caught one of the episodes.
The Krill episode.
Yesterday, and it was really, really good.
Yeah.
It actually ended on a really nice, really cool
somber,
note.
Yeah.
It was a very somber ending, but it was really cool. It wasn't this kind of wrapped up in a tight package,
right.
Everything's going to be okay, and, there's really no consequence to what happened during the episode.
Mm-hmm.
But the ending of it seemed like it was a more of a... The consequences was going to be felt throughout the entire arc of the show. It was really good. I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. I think they do a very good job of balancing the humor with kind of the seriousness of the situation, which I really enjoyed because it was funny, and it was a little more kind of relaxed.
Yeah.
But I think you need that when you're doing this kind of more serious sci-fi.
Yeah, it's like Aliens.
Yeah, and I think I also agree with you that if you had these characters that were essentially perfect and goody two shoes and they were here for the better of humanity. I mean, with the way the world is now, nobody wants to fucking see that shit because you're basically a teacher's pet. Like,
right.
So, because we already kind of run into that now. We see people, I mean, and this is just my own personal opinion, but, I feel like when I see Trump supporters feel like they are the perfect people and, it's like their time to shine and they're like, they can do no wrong. And it's like, with the state of the world, like having something like this is very refreshing. Like, you don't look at these supermodel people who are perfect in every single way.
Right.
And also coming from somebody who I appreciated. I actually liked Family Guy when it first aired, but after it was canceled the first time, it kind of fell off.
Right.
I don't hate Seth MacFarlane. I don't dislike him, and I don't hate his humor. It's just something.
Yeah, I'm not in love with him or anything.
Yeah, it's just something like as I've gotten older, I kind of don't like his humor as much, and I'm okay with. I'm like whatever about it.
Right.
So I kind of already went into this thinking it was gonna be like that, but it seems like his writing has, because he's writing a lot of this, right?
He's writing a lot. I think he's.
his writing.
He's the lead producer. So
I feel like his writing's getting more and more mature, and I don't know if that's because he's got these TNG writers with him as well. But I hope this kind of rubs off on him for him to improve as like a writer. As like, okay, now I don't need to fall back to kind of like juvenile pop culture references, things like that. And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying like, it's nice when you see a writer evolve.
Well, it's like so. I mean, you've seen Wrath of Khan, right?
Yeah.
In Wrath of Khan, they quote Shakespeare, they quote Moby Dick, and stuff like that, because like during that time when it came out, that literature was a big thing and such, and like having them quote it like kind of grounds the show. Now with this show, they make quotes to they make quotes to Star Wars. They make quotes to they quote I think. The Krill worship this god named Avis. Yeah, and they mention it as a car rental place, and they what do the Earth people worship? And I think he said, they worship what is it, the other?
Hertz?
Yeah, they worship Hertz.
Yeah,
like a rival to Avis.
Well, I thought the opening was great. One day, or having lunch with their crewmates,
Bortus, and the guy who can eat anything.
Yeah, they realize like he can eat anything, so they're like, "This is gonna be good," and they're like, "Eat this, eat this." Yeah. So I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. I'm surprised how much I enjoyed it. And again, like I don't hate Seth MacFarlane, so but I'm not a fan. I'm not a huge super fan of his. I enjoy some of his stuff. So this was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that that was the last episode that came out. And that's probably the best episode so far. Not to say the other episodes weren't bad. I will say the pilot is a little. It's not that great.
I know we talked about it. And you said the pilot was a little uneven.
Yeah, it's a little uneven because they're trying to find their legs and such. One thing I did not like about the pilot was I absolutely hated the music. I have a little bit of an insider information here because I have a friend whose wife works on the show, and basically they got rid of that person who did the music for the first episode. And like this last episode, the music's a lot better. They even have cues that are very similar to Jerry Goldsmith when he did Alien. You can hear it in the score and such. So yeah, I'm kind of in love with the show now because it's like I kind of dig this. I kind of like the level the humor in it where it's not extreme like wild off the wall humor where it's like it's like people making an alien joke here and there, blah blah blah. It's more of like a toned down like humor.
I would imagine, like, I'm hoping this is what I think might be happening in the writers' room, and I'm hoping this is true, is that because Seth MacFarlane is such a huge fan of Star Trek and the TNG people. Yeah. I'm thinking he kind of runs a lot of the humor by them, just kind of like make sure I don't fucking go overboard with this shit. He's probably open to a lot more criticism humor-wise, And humor is usually his forte, and not really drama. So I'm sure I wouldn't doubt if he defaults to those writers to kind of, kind of focus on the drama a bit more as opposed to the humor, but still have that kind of levity when you have something serious.
And in terms of the production of the show, bring a picture up here. The one thing I do really dig about it, and something I notice off the bat, is some of the show is in CG. Obviously, you have to do that for a show with today's sensibilities. It's hard to make ships like do barrel rolls and shoot lasers or whatever, or shoot energy weapons and torpedoes without having a CG. But there are some cases where it's an actual model, and like you feel like the ship's it's got a weight to it, and that's something I respect. Not a lot of science fiction shows today do that. Not a lot of science fiction shows 5 years ago did that. Mm-hmm. But they're doing it now, and I really respect that. Because I kind of enjoy like the sort of look of the ship. It looks like a fish to me, and
especially with the TV show.
Yeah.
I mean, TV show doesn't usually have the big production as like a Star Wars.
Yeah.
So someone like J.J. Abrams,
mm-hmm.
he's got the clout and the money to go back and use practical effects, models, things like that. Where someone like Seth MacFarlane probably doesn't.
Right, but he does it anyways.
But he does it anyways because he knows that adds to the kind of authenticity of it.
So check out Orville. It's a good show. Even if you don't like Star Trek, because Augmented Biscuits here is not the biggest Star Trek fan. I mean,
Star Trek fucking sucks.
He's seen the movies and stuff like that. But
I will say my movies, the Star Trek movies I would rank would be First Contact, mm-hmm. and then Wrath of Khan.
Right.
And Wrath of Khan I only watched it because you told me to watch it before Into Darkness.
Yeah.
Which I actually enjoyed.
Yeah.
Also, Ricardo Montalban's chest is like...
It's unreal.
I mean, I felt tingling. I felt some...
You feel the masculine power of it.
I do. I feel the masculinity just like empowering me. I mean, I was swooning.
Have you ever seen Freakazoid?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I used to watch Freakazoid. Yeah.
When he was a villain on that, and he would actually just get into quotes with he'd say, he tasks me, and I'll have him, and then like his henchmen are looking at him real strange, like.
I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, right, okay.
That's such a weird fucking show, but it was great.
Well, I loved the fact that it had Ricardo Montalban doing a
But it
voice.
also didn't have, who was Cosgrove?
He's the guy he was also the Creeper as well in Batman the Animated Series. I don't know.
But I know I know it was him. I know there was one episode where they would do that kind of like dun dun dun.
Yeah.
But they were all saying it instead of actually like along with the note with the cue.
Freakazoid was that like missing link between Batman the Animated Series and The Tick.
Yeah. It was great. It was great. But check it. I would rank First Contact, Wrath of Khan, and then I'd probably rank.
Have you watched all the movies?
No, I haven't watched all of them.
I'm a real big fan of...
And then Galaxy Quest.
And Galaxy Quest, yeah. I'm a really big fan of Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, because it talks about a lot of stuff that happened during the Cold War and kind of puts a science fiction spin to it. Mm-hmm. So basically, if you want the Cold War to be summarized in one movie, that's the movie you have to watch. It has like, you would probably Manchurian Candidate like themes and stuff like that.
If you were a history professor, you'd probably just use Star Trek to teach history.
Probably. And like obviously, I'm a huge fan of Star Trek 2009 and Into Darkness. Like some Trek fans will just crucify me for saying that, but
especially Into Darkness because so many people say Into Darkness shit.
Yeah, but I really dug it. Like here's the thing. At this point, like at that point when those movies came out, there have been so many renditions of Star Trek that they've like explored every theme that's out there, and I know that there's more out there, and they could do different things with it. But I felt that, like, at that point, that you can't go back and do those exact same themes. So what are you going to do? You can do it a little bit differently, maybe make it more of a spectacle, which I think that's the one thing that it was always limited on, is because, like, when the movies even came out, even First Contact, they had very limited things that they could do. Mm-hmm. And so you grab a director named, J.J. Abrams, who at the time was, like, he was King Dingling at the time, and probably is now. And they basically tell him, like, okay, we need to re-energize this. And, like, the one thing he did say is that, well, like, the only thing I know that's kind of similar to this is Star Wars. So maybe I'll inject a little bit of Star Wars into Star Trek. Now, yes, the action beats and stuff like that, it's very much like the pacing's much like a Star Wars film. But I think one of the things that he made different between that and, from that franchise to this franchise is that he kept the sort of character, like, interconnectedness that Star Trek always had. And he made it about those kind of characters. Like they had these like sort of emotional beats, and that's the one thing that he took away from Trek and put it into the new movies. Yeah, they're not exploring space, but like if you look at all the Star Trek movies, not a lot of them involve them in exploring space. They're always stopping something that's about to destroy Earth, or they're like trying to like keep the peace amongst like rival factions, so that inadvertently causes like some kind of conflict, getting back to conflict. Or, there's that one movie where they go back in time and, save whales and, like, say, like, curse words like double dumbass you and such, Star Trek 4. That's probably the only one that I could say, well, that's probably what people are looking for, but you can't do that all the time because then people say, well, I'll just watch Back to the Future or something like that if I want to see that kind of movie.
I feel like Into Darkness, I don't know, this is, again, my own personal opinion, but I feel like Into Darkness, the hate that it got and the complaint it got was exactly what people essentially complain about when they want a Final Fantasy VII remake.
Right.
It's like, I want to play Final Fantasy VII, but I want it updated. But I want to play, but I don't want anything to change. Like, I want all my memories intact of it. Same thing with Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Whenever a new like Castlevania comes out, that's essentially like Symphony of the Night. They're like, well, this isn't Symphony of the Night. It's if you want to play if you want that so much, go back and watch it. Go back and play it.
Yeah,
like,
go.
I feel like they wanted a remake of Wrath of Khan, but they wanted it to be exactly like Wrath of Khan.
Right. They want. And I remember talking to someone who like didn't like the newer movies. By the way, I'm not a big fan of Beyond because it feels like one of those older films. I own it anyways because like I own all the bad Star Trek films and television episodes. And she said that, why can't they just, go back and use the older actors? And it's like, well, William Shatner is like, 80 years old now? Leonard Nimoy's dead. So is DeForest Kelley. It's really hard to go back and create that magic. Just keep in mind also, like, a lot of those movies are of its time. Now, I don't think that's entirely a bad thing. I just think that, like, if you're going to create a movie like Wrath of Khan, you can't capture that magic again. Yeah. You have to do something different. And unfortunately, if you want to say unfortunately, but the only way to do that maybe is to give it more kick. I know that there's movies out there that have to do with space exploration and stuff like Interstellar, and I like there's like more thoughtful, I guess science fiction you could say. But Interstellar is a very long movie, and it's hard to sit through.
It's basically a Nolan circle jerk.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I'm not a big fan of Inception. Yeah. I liked Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 more than Inception because it's a better movie.
Come on, Dream Warriors.
Dream Warriors is awesome.
Also, Freddy doesn't believe in magic.
I'm beautiful and bad.
Freddy didn't believe in magic, so that's why that wizard kid couldn't do shit.
Yeah, no, he couldn't. You know who's really badass in that? Kincaid. Yeah. Because he could bend a chair.
He's like the only one who survives, and then he gets killed immediately in like part 4, right?
Yeah, after Joey gets killed. Who has like the ability to talk, which I always thought was a kind of a cop-out for him. Yeah. Well, let's move on here. Let's go into our review of the SNES Classic.
It stinks.
What do you like?
The critic, John Lovitz?
Yeah.
John Lovitz?
Is it Jay Sherman?
Yeah. So the SNES Classic.
Yeah. I've been playing hours and hours of this. I haven't played every game yet, though.
Neither have I. Yeah. I've only played a few games. I haven't had as much time on it as I would like. First thing off the bat that I would say that is very noticeable, obviously, but very surprised was how small it is.
It is really small.
It is tiny. Yeah. Like palm of an adult hand tiny. Yeah. Like, I did not realize how small that thing was. Actually, Johnny 5 had the same reaction because he opened his.
Yeah, he opened it in the car and he's like, "Look at this thing. Look how
small
it is." Yeah.
Second thing, again, controller cords way too goddamn short.
Too short. I have mine on a really long HDMI cable
Mm-hmm.
because you need to actually have that near you because the reset button will take you back to the menu. So if you want to do a save state, that's how you have to do it.
Yeah.
There's also a function where you can actually rewind. So if you're like playing a game like Castlevania and you like just died and you just don't want to do the entire level over and reach that checkpoint, you actually have the ability to rewind it about
10 seconds.
10 seconds or something like that.
Yeah.
So you can beat these games a little easier. I know that takes out the challenge of it or whatever, but it's like I don't have time to like play these games for real anymore. And this is really helpful for those RPGs that are on there.
Yeah. And then the third thing I would point out would be good. Well, good and bad is that the controller is exactly like an SNES controller, even down to how clicky the buttons are.
Yeah.
Some of them. I remember the SNES controller. Oh, the L and R buttons were always pretty soft.
Buttons,
they were like very squishy.
Yeah.
But the face buttons were very like clicky.
Mm-hmm.
So they did do that. Again, good and bad. Now with the way we have controllers and the way they're built, these can be a little painful if you're playing for like extended amount of time.
Yeah, I Nintendo thumb all over again.
Yeah. Some of it does hurt. I do find it a bit hard to do Hadoukens and Street Fighter.
Yeah, that's the big thing.
And Dragon Punches.
No analog sticks, guys.
Yeah. But for the most part, everything's pretty much exactly how you remember.
Well, let's get into the games here. The first one I want to talk about is basically the first game, or the game that came with the old SNES. That's Super Mario World. I played a little bit of it. I'm not very good at it because I'll die a lot. Just because I didn't own an SNES back in the day. But Augment Biscuits, you've played it, and I believe you've beaten Super Mario World on the SNES Classic. So what do you think? How did it hold up?
It is a lot harder than I remember it being. Yeah. Not super difficult, but they do introduce a lot of like mechanics as you advance through the world. It's still really enjoyable. It's nice, kind of. It's one thing I will say. It's really nice revisiting all these games because it's funny how your muscles remember. Your muscle memory and your actual just memory of the games. You tend to. It all just kind of comes back to you. Like, you memorize where things are. You memorize, like, how to jump, where certain things are. Super Mario World, not so much, because I don't remember where a lot of stuff is at. I have vague recollections, but it was fun. Some of the mechanics, I think, are a little wonky. Like, I know you were talking to me about the cape. The cape, dive bombing with the cape of flying is really, it can be a little difficult to get a hang of.
Yeah, I'm better at Super Mario 3, and all you have to do is flap your little tail. And that's it.
As far as Yoshi, though, I remember Yoshi being really enjoyable, especially if you get purple Yoshi, because he's the one who can fly. I do remember this. The game is a little more difficult than I remember, but there also is shortcuts in the game, and I actually was about maybe halfway through the game, or maybe. Actually, no, I think it was like maybe 2 castles away from Bowser's castle, and I found the Star Road. And with the Star Road, you can actually, because there's a star teleporter in each area, you can actually use the Star Road to pretty much skip all the way to Bowser's castle. And I think actually a mutual friend of ours, the Hearn, or I guess that's what his Twitter name is, the Hearn. He actually says he can beat it in 20 minutes.
Really?
And I found out that he uses Star Road, which is, there's a Star Road in the first area, or actually second area, and all you have to do is use Star Road and then pass the worlds in the Star Road because it connects all the way around, and then it can lead you to Bowser Castle.
You just skip around. In
that, so I was actually maybe in like the fifth world, I was like done with the 5th castle, and I actually got to Bowser's Castle, and I beat it. The actual boss fight of Bowser is actually not very difficult. It's actually pretty easy.
That's what he has, that clown thing.
It's actually not as hard as I remember it being. Everything else though is really difficult, especially like the ghost houses. I was talking to him and he's like, me and both agree that the ghost houses in this game are like the fucking worst. They're like annoying because not only are they kind of laid out where you have to kind of not only are they laid out where you really have to you have to time your jumps between the ghosts, but they also have secret exits. Yeah. And you have to actually look for these secret exits and do certain things. But for the most part, it was actually as much. It was very. I fondly remember playing it, and it was like I said, it was fun playing this.
Now, I read that, speaking of the ghost house, those larger ghosts, what are they called? Boos? Like, I guess you can, if you slide down a hill, you can actually kill those ghosts. But
I don't know.
Yeah, there's apparently that was a secret that someone actually found out, like, it was maybe, 6 months ago or so, that if you find a place to slide, if you hit that ghost, it'll actually die.
Oh, nice.
And it's like the secret that no one's ever revealed or done.
I didn't even know that.
So like even after so many years, there's new things about Super Mario World that people haven't discovered. Well, let's move on here. Their other mainstay title is Link's Awakening. Have you played that yet?
I haven't started that, but I know once I start it, I'm not going to stop, so that's why I haven't gotten to it.
That's the one I've been playing now.
Is this the first one you started playing, Link's Awakening? Or sorry, Link to the Past.
Link to the Past. Link's Awakening is a Game Boy game. I'm sorry. Yeah. Link to the Past.
You always get this mixed up.
I played Link to the Past in the past before, but that was on the computer emulator, obviously. I'm playing it now, and I'm digging it. Like I have it on my DS, but I'm like playing it on my SNES Classic because I like the feel of the controls. I forgot how just big this game was. Like it's
long.
Yeah,
it's a long game.
You have to beat Agamemnon. Is that his name?
I don't even know. Agamon?
Agamon, who later, spoiler, becomes Ganon. You have so many people to talk to.
Yeah, it's you have to do what makes it long is you have to do the 3 courage medals first, and then you have to do it. Yeah. You actually start the world, and then once you start the world, then you go to the dark world, and you have to do 8 of those things too.
Right. And it's like such a huge game. I forgot how epic this game was. I love the music. Just hearing the theme again was it's amazing. My favorite thing is when you go into the overworld and you hear it for the first time. Dun 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 dun. Like it just brings back a lot of great memories. I mean, obviously, for me, it's playing it on a computer emulator, but it's the theme that was used in the original game as well. Mm. And yeah, it's to this day I think is the best Zelda game I've played besides Link's Awakening.
And would you say you never played Ocarina?
I didn't really play Ocarina. I'm just not a big fan of 3D kind of games like that.
I would say that if you played Link to the Past, you really don't need to play Ocarina because
I hear it's the same kind of.
And again, this is something me and Hearn agree on, which is we essentially say that Ocarina of Time is a 3D remake of Link to the Past.
Yeah.
The only thing is though, I find Ocarina of Time to be a bit kind of boring.
Really?
Because there's a lot of their dungeons. There's a lot of kind of. I feel like some of their dungeons they artificially stretch out.
Right.
Like you can solve those dungeons quickly, but they make these kind of design decisions to extend the length of a dungeon.
Right.
It's not just okay. Get the keys. Get this, and you can get to the dungeon. No, it's you have to do this. You have to kill this monster. You have to kill this stupid ghost. Like, for example, the first dungeon you do when you're Adult Link, the Shadow Dungeon.
Yeah.
There's a ghost there's 4 torches. There's 4 ghosts for each of those torches. Your job in the very beginning is to hunt down those 4 ghosts so you can light these torches. So once you light these torches, it'll take you downstairs so you can actually try to get to the boss. Then you have to actually look for the boss key. So it's a lot of that. I know there's another dungeon.
A lot of fetching and questing.
Yeah, there's a lot of it's just a lot of things to do and they just feel kind of artificially padded.
Right.
Not only that, it moves very slow.
Yeah.
I would suggest if you're gonna play it, I would say play the 3DS remake, like the remastered version on 3DS.
Where they improve the graphics.
Where they improve the graphics, it looks better. It doesn't look as kind of janky. It still controls a little bit better again, but it's not as I don't know. It's weird. I still like it, but at the same time, I feel like it's one of those games where it's just too artificially long. But Link to the Past is great.
Yeah, one of my favorite things. I just got done with this level, but there's a level where you're in one of the dungeons, and then you find a person who's been caged up, and she says can you lead me out of here? but if you go through like the front door, she won't go that way. So you really have no choice but to go, fight the boss or whatever. And you're close enough to the boss to go fight him. And you find out the person that's with you is the actual boss. He like changes into the boss. And I thought, like, that's amazing. Like, that's something I genuinely thought, like, because I didn't really remember, like, my first playthrough of the game. I generally thought that I was supposed to save this person. And, but it turned out she became the boss and you had to fight her. Again, like, this is one of those games it feels timeless. I like the gameplay. I like collecting all the little pieces of equipment and, like, the sky hook, or what is it called? The hook shot.
Yeah, the hook shot.
That's my favorite weapon. Let's move on here. This is a game that everyone probably knows about. It's Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition Turbo.
What the hell is a Street Fighter?
It's Sonny Chiba.
Oh, God. This game, I booted this up, and I realized how horrible I am at this game.
Yeah.
I had to reduce this down to 2 stars.
Really?
I couldn't do it on 4 stars. I was getting, you know what?
You don't get the endings if you put it to that low.
I was getting my ass kicked by Ryu. I was Ryu and getting my ass kicked by Ryu.
Really? Actually, Ryu's very hard. I played this game with Johnny 5. We had epic matches. Johnny 5 mostly got the upper hand on me. I beat him a couple times, but he beat me like 5 times.
You said Johnny 5's really good at this,
He's really good at it, actually. It takes me... I have to really, really, really try hard to beat him. And I got him a couple times, but then, like, he's really good with Ken. The thing is that how he fights with Ken is that he doesn't rely on the special moves. He just knows all of Ken's moves. So, like, I think one of the things he does is, like, the roundhouse thing. So when I'm in the air and he tags me that roundhouse, I fall to the ground. Yeah. If he does that 3 times, I think that, like, turns me into a dizzy, and then, like, then I'm vulnerable to anything. I played with my friend Bert, that's the guy I gave the extra SNES Classic to for his birthday, and we played, and like he like started the player 1 mode for some reason, and I just hit start, and I was like, why did you do this? And like, why don't we just do like so we can switch characters? Like, no, that's not how you play in the arcade or whatever. So I picked E Honda, he was Ken, and I proceeded to demolish him for 18 battles. Like there was not a single one he was winning.
That's what he gets for not switching characters.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I was E Honda. I'm like, God, I'm getting bored of this because I'm killing you. And he was picking every single character to try and beat me. And he's just like, this is horrible. This is a massacre. I'm like, yeah, I know you're really bad at this.
Yeah, but it's fun. It's still nice to go back to it. It's still has great input. Yeah. I didn't notice any concernable lag. Did you playing it?
No, not really.
I know a lot of people when they play these types of games on like LCD TVs, they think there's like a lag input. I actually turned off all the post processing. Yeah. Like the picture processing stuff that the TVs do. Yeah. But I didn't really notice anything. I didn't notice anything either.
I mean, they seem to play the way that it seemed to be played. I think people are just used to like high-end graphics and stuff moving like way more smoothly. Yeah. Back in the day, you had like an inherent jerkiness, but they kind of worked it into the game. So, let's move on there. There's not really much to say about Street Fighter 2. This is a game that you're really good at, but I'm not very good at it. But I'm a fan of the franchise. But Mega Man X. So tell me about Mega Man X, because like I played like I had a lot of fun doing it. But I always play the opening, and then I can't ever get the boss pattern correctly because it's not like they're different types of characters.
Do I gotta tell you the boss pattern?
Yeah.
Okay. So you started playing this?
I started playing this, and I got through like I loved the sort of prologue where you get the Boba Fett type character.
Vile.
Yeah, Vile, and like he's about to beat you, and like there's no way you can win that thing. And then, what's his name shows up? Zero shows up and beats him.
Why are you even talking about Mega Man? You don't even know. Yeah. Come on, chucking dice now.
Well, I'm an original Mega Man fan.
But did you think that was cool, though? Like, Vile gets you, and then you just hear a Buster charging in the background, and you're like, what the hell is that? And then you see, like, this energy shot blow him up. And there's a lot of little touches in that game that make it great. So Mega Man X is actually the one game that I was really, really excited to play on. I played this game so much when I was younger because it was actually gifted to me from a cousin in Mexico. He won some kind of contest. Yeah. And he won this in a contest, but he didn't have a Super Nintendo.
Oh, he just gave it to you?
Yeah, so when my dad and my brother actually gone to visit them, they gave it to my dad to give to me. And I remember playing this game so much. Like when I was younger, my brother was really the one who finished a lot of the games we had.
Right.
But Mega Man X and Super Metroid were the two games that I had actually finished before he did. And Mega Man X especially was the one where he was like really surprised that I had finished because he didn't think I was going to be able to do it. I go back a long way with this. I played the game so much that when I started the game up, I knew every single... the jumps, the pattern of my jumps and where I shoot, like, is exactly how I did it back in the day. So I have a lot of muscle memory of this game. Mega Man X, for those of you who don't know, this was almost kind of like, I would say like a reboot of their X series, or maybe kind of like an offshoot. But
it's a spin-off offshoot because it takes place in the distant future of the original Mega Man.
Yeah, so they kind of wanted to make a new Mega Man. They wanted to make Mega Man for the Super Nintendo, but I think they wanted to get away from the normal.
They did Mega Man 7 on Super Nintendo, and it wasn't very well received.
Was it before or after X?
I think it was. I want to say before X. I don't know. Maybe they came at the same time because I think X was the sort of way of saying, well, let's make it more story-oriented. Let's make it different.
They made X really more story-oriented, but not only that, they made a little more action.
Yeah.
Action-packed.
Right.
So X starts off with the story is actually you are the Mega Man model that Dr. Light has built, but because you were such an advanced machine he built, he wanted to make sure that you were able to think on your own because that was very new. He essentially created consciousness in you, but he wanted to make sure that he worked out all the bugs. So he stuck you in a capsule essentially and kind of buried you
like a cryogenic,
like a cryogenic capsule. It was mainly just to kind of run diagnostics on your entire system to make sure you didn't like go crazy and take over the world. And when you wake up, the world is actually a different place. Apparently, you actually get woken up by another doctor named Dr. Kane, and he used Mega Man X's systems as a way to create a new generation of robots called Reploids. Now, when he wakes up Mega Man, he has already used X's kind of systems and framework to create Reploids. Reploids start going crazy, and they start attacking humans and actually start going to war with humans. And these are Reploids that have gone maverick, as they say. Essentially, they have been infected by a virus and caused them to go crazy and violent against humans. So they make a special task force called the Maverick Hunters.
It's like Blade Runner.
It's like Blade Runner, and you and Zero are part of it. Now, a lot of the robots, and I don't know if you got to this. I don't know if you kind of gleaned this from there. They kind of mention it, but a lot of the Reploids look down upon X because he's an old model.
Yeah.
They look down upon him because they think he's weak. He's not as advanced they are, so they always underestimate him. So in this game, and again in the beginning, you go up against Vile, and he tells you that he's like, "You're never gonna beat me." He's like, "You're an ancient machine. Your weapons will do no damage to me. You won't ever beat me." Zero saves your ass, but on your journey, you actually start, and it's actually really, really nice. Kind of a little somber.
Mm-hmm.
You run into as you play the game, you run into these power-up capsules.
Yeah,
and you enter in this like little kind of capsule, and it gives you a new power, and it's these armor pieces. You get the leg armor, the chest armor, the X-Buster, and the helmet. But you get a message from Dr. Light when you enter these capsules, and essentially Dr. Light's like, I wanted you to choose your own path. I didn't want you to fight, but it seems like the world made the choice for you.
Right.
So he planned ahead, and because he knew you were going to have to fight one day, he made these upgrade capsules. So you get these different abilities, and immediately you know that Mega Man X is actually a bit different from the regular Mega Man series.
It's not like the rock paper scissors kind of thing.
No, it kind of is, but it's got other little things.
Well,
they're not as blatant
right.
about the weaknesses as they usually are.
Yeah, there's like Iceman and Fireman, whatever.
Like some are, but some aren't. First thing off the bat is that the music is very, very rock heavy.
Yeah.
It's really, really good. It's probably some of my favorite music ever. The other thing you can notice is you can actually, once you start getting legs ability, you have different abilities. So one is you can dash, and you can climb the walls. You can jump off the walls, dash.
Yeah, the wall jump I thought was really funny. You can slide too.
Yeah, you can slide. You can wall jump. And then each weapon, when you charge it up with the upgraded X Buster, actually has a different power. So like when you get the shotgun ice, and it's funny because each kind of power, some of them have different variations. Like the shotgun ice is one little beam, but if it hits a wall, it breaks up into 3 separate smaller projectiles.
Right.
And it bounces off walls. So you shoot the core of it at a wall, and it'll bounce back and shoot 3 smaller
cool.
projectiles. One thing it does too is when you charge it, it actually makes an ice slide, a little ice platform that slides.
Yeah.
So it kind of takes the place of what was Mega Man's dog?
Rush.
Remember the Rush platform that just went forward? It kind of takes the place of that. When you use Sting Chameleons, you actually become invincible. You glow. You're flashing these rainbow colors, but you're actually invincible. Other ones like the Spark, I always call it the Bubble Power. It's the one from the Armadillo guy. When you charge it up, you actually get an overshield. You get a shield around you to protect you. You can't shoot, but you're protected.
Right.
So a lot of smaller enemies, like the bats or things that fly,
So
they're like one-hit kills on that
right.
shield. So you get the different kind of powers and things like that. And like I said, again, it's more story-focused. So you start off, like Chuck and Dice was saying, the rock, paper, scissors isn't as blatant. Like, for example, you always want to start off with Chill Penguin because he's the one who takes... you can kill him with the fire, with the flame, the mammoth flame. But you can actually kill him with the X-Buster as well. There's actually some of the enemies I think all the enemies you can kill with the X-Buster. It's just not efficient, except with like Penguin and I think another character, Storm Eagle.
Right.
You can kill him with it. But there's also little touches that make this game really great. Like, if you defeat certain bosses first, they have effects on another level. Like, if you go into Storm Eagle's level and you destroy him, the airship that he's in will actually crash down into Spark Mandrill's level, and it will cut out all the power in there. So a lot of the level you're in the dark.
Right.
If you, I believe, which one is it? I believe if you destroy, there's a certain enemy you destroy first. It causes Flame Mammoth's lava to freeze. Everything that's lava based is frozen.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
So when you do that, it actually makes certain levels easier. I know also, I think there's like other stuff that you can do.
Right.
A lot of them have like different effects on each level.
Yeah, you know what? I've been playing this game on my DS, and I actually will highly recommend it to you. I think maybe because we're friends on the DS thing, so you probably can see me playing it a lot. Mighty Gunvolt. It's the sequel to Mighty Gunvolt, which is the sequel to Mighty Gunvolt. There's I think Fighter Azure Gunvolt, which is like the original game. Mighty Gunvolt is sort of like a parody game because it's like an 8-bit remake of it. And then Mighty Gunvolt Burst is like a sequel to that game, but it takes it a little bit more seriously. And like a lot of the stuff that you say like this happens in Mega Man X, you can actually do in Mighty Gunvolt. You basically you go through levels to like gather experience and gather like different kind of traits, and you can like fashion your own weapons. Like you can create a bounce shot, or you can make it go in waves, or you can make one where it it's called a homing thing, so it just kind of homes on to whatever person, and depending on how much experience you put into it, you can increase the level of homing and stuff like that. And you have different characters you can select. You can select Gunvolt, Mighty Number 9, which I hear that this is the best Mighty Number 9 has ever been because the original game is bad.
The game really bombed. Yeah, and it's nice playing this because they did a lot with for the Super Nintendo. They have a lot of secrets. You can increase your heart. You can increase your energy tank. With heart tanks, you can get reserve tanks, things like that. It's just a really well done game. I will say though that this game is a lot. It is a lot harder. The difficulty The difficulty for this game doesn't come from level design and falls and jumps and things like that. The difficulty actually comes from the enemies you fight. A lot of these enemies, especially before you collect all the heart tanks, you can get killed really, really easily. X takes a lot of damage. It is nice because they tie that. I feel like that's a product of the story. You know, X is an ancient machine. He's not really the most advanced machine out there, so he's a lot weaker. He doesn't do as much damage, but again, he can be upgraded.
Yeah.
The boss fights are great. The boss levels are really awesome. Really good robot design. I mean, you look at some of the boss designs and they're really great. I mean, one of my favorite designs here is Storm Eagle. I mean, he's an awesome like designed robot. He's got the giant wings. You know,
he's the one who flaps the wind at you and like, pushes you off the platform.
He's a really cool design.
Yeah, I got to him, but I got beat.
I mean, you have even designs like the launch octopus.
Right.
And even though they don't have the rock paper scissors as much where it's blatant, you still see. We also got we got a new person. We got C Cat Video Games.
Hi, C Cat Video Games. How's it going? Shout out to C Cat Video Games.
One of the cool things too is you have even though a weapon won't affect this boss as much, you can still do some damage. So for example, like the boomerang, if you have the boomerang, you can actually use the boomerang to cut off the flame mammoth's trunk,
right,
and also cut off launch octopus's arm. So there's a lot of little things like that. It's a really great game. I highly recommend it. Sorry I spent too much time on it.
You're really excited about this one, but it is from first impressions of playing this game for myself, because I haven't really played it. I really like it. So let's move on. We're going to move on to Castlevania 4. This is personally one of my favorite games. This is actually a game that I'm actually pretty good at.
Yeah, and I never, this was a surprise because I never played Castlevania 4, but go ahead, checking dice.
So Castlevania 4 is a remake of the first Castlevania, straight up. Obviously, it's not a shot-for-shot remake. There's like different, bosses, different environments. I mean, the concept's still the same. You're Simon Belmont, but instead of having that function where you jump, anytime you jump in the original Castlevania, you have to be committed to that jump.
Yeah.
Here, you can actually control the direction of where you jump. So you're basically jumping very similar to a Mega Man type character. You have a whip, but instead of having it locked down to wherever forward or just basically in front of you, you can whip 8 directions. You can jump up, whip diagonally, like up or down. You can whip below you. It just gives you a little bit more different options to whip, and so you have a bit more control with Simon Belmont. He doesn't feel stiff. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite things that you have is that you don't, like in the original Castlevania, you have to hit up and the whip button to use your secondary weapon. They changed it to a shoulder button now, so you just have to press R1. Or I guess R.
Yeah, you throw your daggers, your axes.
Your axes and stuff like that. This is actually an image of me playing it, and I got to the end and beat the game. It's tough. It's still a tough game, but the music is just stupendous. I love the fact that towards the end of the game, they start playing, what's it called, Bloody Tears, Vampire Killer, and it's like the culmination of all Castlevania games are happening at least at that point. Right there. And I respect games like Symphony of the Night, and I actually, one of my favorite games is Portrait of Ruin, as I mentioned to you before. The problem I have with some of those games is that I don't like the grinding aspect of it, and I know it's more action based grinding than anything, but sometimes I get lost in that castle a lot. Here it's more linear, and it's more you have to kind of figure out how to beat this just with your wits, just with your whip, maybe your sub weapon if you have it. But it's just it's your reflexes against the game, and I kind of like that sort of straight to the point ness of this version than say something like Symphony of the Night or Portrait of Ruin or Aria of Sorrow or all those games. Now I'm not saying those games are bad. I love those games. I like Circle of the Moon is one of my favorite, but I kind of do like the simplicity of just beating the level with reflexes and your critical thinking.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I like I said before, I never played this game before, but the music was great. It's
very dark look to it too.
Very dark look. There's certain times where I think there's a bit too much going on the screen, and it's a little hard to kind of differentiate different
the bats.
Platforms, things like that. I like that they introduced the Medusas right away in the first level. Mm-hmm. The directional whipping and also swinging with the whip is actually really cool.
Yeah, I like how you just kind of flap it around.
Yeah, I did. There are some cheap portions. There's a few times where it's I feel like it's Ninja Gaiden NES design where you know you use your whip to swing over to the platform you need to get to, but as soon as you get there, there's an enemy that comes out and hits you right there, and you go backwards. So I kept rewinding that part so I can. And I realized I was like, why don't I just stay back here and just throw daggers at it and kill it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's cheap, and it is, like I said, there's times where it's cheap, and there's times where it can be really difficult. But I don't think this is brutally difficult like the NES games. It looks great. I mean, it still holds up really well. Simon is still. I feel like Simon's still a little stiff, but not as stiff.
Not as stiff as he was in the first game.
He's a little more agile. Like I believe. I think jumping wise, he's a little more agile.
Yeah.
But so far, I actually really liked it. If you're a fan of the older Castlevanias, I would say I highly recommend this.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of what they took here, they kind of led them into doing Rondo of Blood and you know, well, Dracula X on the Super Nintendo because they also did that. So.
So let's move on here. This game is a very popular game, but I think other renditions of this game is more popular. It's Mario Kart. I was playing with Johnny 5, and we had the consensus of, you know, I don't think this game really aged as well as the other games. We were playing it 2-player, we're doing the race mode, and then we did the duel mode. We kind of both decided, like, I guess we liked the N64 version better than this game, and all the other renditions after that as well. I think it just didn't look good in the HD screen, and like I'm sure the game's still fun for people, but I didn't really like it that much.
Yeah, it didn't age for me. I agree with you. It didn't age. I don't think it aged very well for me. It's still a fun game, but I prefer. Yeah. I don't know. I actually prefer Crash Team Racing.
Yeah.
Or actually, I actually really like all the handheld
Mario Karts.
Mario Karts.
Right.
Actually, those are fun.
Well, they have more capabilities, so we're just we'll leave it at that. I mean, if you guys love Mario Kart, then obviously you probably love this game. But I didn't really like it as much. I'm not in love with Mario Kart as most people.
The battle mode's actually pretty fun. If you play the battle mode, it's actually quite fun.
So let's move on to another racing game, which I've never played, but this is the first time I've been exposed to it. F-Zero.
Neither have I.
And for like, I love this game.
You loved it.
Yeah. It's like I was having an incredible time. It was so simple, and like you know, I was losing some races, but you know, I was trying to hang in there.
It kind of reminds you of Wipeout on the Wipeout games on the PlayStation system. Yeah. But not as brutally hard. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. Yeah. I think it's a little more. I think it's a bit difficult for me because I've never been exposed to it, but it was still a lot of really fun. You kind of get that sense of speed. It's
like a quick game. It's like, I want to play something quick, and F-Zero is a very quick game. And I love the sort of the momentum when you take turns and stuff.
Now, I had a question. When you take turns, do you use the shoulder buttons to take the sharper turns to like kind of shift?
I guess I was doing it, like, I discovered that you had to do that. Mm-hmm. And so I started using those. But how I was doing it before, because I didn't know about the shoulder buttons because I didn't read the instructions to this game, is that I was actually letting go of the acceleration so I could my momentum would just drift me over.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, but then I found out, oh, you're supposed to use the shoulder buttons to take those.
Do you tap or do you hold?
I kind of hold because I'm just that kind of person. Because like you're holding down the accelerator button, so I'm kind of holding it. So I kind of take turns a little too sharp. But I've been kind of like alternating and trying to figure out the game.
And the computer racers are hard too.
Yeah, they're jerks too.
You make a few. I mean, you can make like 1 or 2 mistakes, but anything more than 1 or 2, and you're basically screwed.
You'll beat like up to the second driver, and the first driver is like the expert driver. Yeah, and like it's like he will. I mean, you have to do everything to get past that guy. Yeah, I actually really like this game, and probably will start playing it a lot. Let's move on to the big one, Star Fox. Like I've only played the first board because I wanted to unlock Star Fox 2.
Yeah, I beat the game.
You did?
Yeah, and I remember playing this back in the day, and it runs exactly how it ran back in the day, which is not very well. Right. It plays great. It's a little hard to know where you're shooting at because there's no reticle. Yeah. So it's hard to know where your bullets are going. But it's still a fun game. It's got, if you like on the rail shooters or you like any kind of like space sims, like space sim shooters, like if you're a fan of
This is the only one of 2 shooters that are on there. The other one's Star Fox too.
Yeah. If you like the X-Wing versus TIE Fighters or X-Wing series or like even Wing Commander.
Wing Commander, yeah.
You actually would like this. It's really cool. It's got some clever design. The graphics,
it's polygon, guys.
It's polygon. It didn't age very well, but it's still really fun.
Right.
Especially the last level where you're flying in the tunnel, it can be really claustrophobic and really difficult. So I kept resetting this goddamn thing. But it still holds up really well. I wish though that there was some kind of hardware acceleration for it, because again, you can tell that this was really pushing the limit of the SNES. I'm surprised they didn't try to I did read that they were going to try to release Star Fox 2 and they canceled it because they wanted to focus on the 64. But then they ended up they essentially remade it on the 64.
Right.
And the 64 one still holds up pretty well. I would go even as far as it's actually better when they released it on the 3DS. Yeah. Because it controls really, really well, and it's got targeting.
Plus, you can see people's faces when they get shot down if you're doing the multiplayer mode.
But Star Fox can actually be really difficult. There's times where it's really, really difficult. Like, especially the bosses, I think just because of the way you're shooting and you don't have a targeting reticle, it's hard to know if you're doing damage or not, or like what the weak point is. But I think it's still a fun game.
I was having fun with the second game a little bit more. I like the strategy aspect of it, where you have to like do missions and like you could pick where to go and stuff. That was kind of like a little bit different from the first game, which is essentially just a rail shooter. The one thing I didn't like about the second one is the flying portion, because it's more of an open space flying, and I felt like I was just like flying all over the place.
Oh, see, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Yeah.
But I love the walker parts. It feels like a mecha. It's like Robotech. But let's move on here. The next one is like a sequel to an old Game Boy game from it's the original one called Final Fantasy Adventure. If you played this old Game Boy game, it essentially plays like a Zelda, but they wanted to go for like a Final Fantasy look, so you have people leveling up. I haven't played this game yet, so it's called Secrets of Mana, and you played it though.
Yeah, I played it a little bit.
Yeah.
I know
it's more action based.
Yeah, it's more action based. I know Proto Man is a really huge fan of this game. It plays very much like a Chrono Trigger.
Yeah.
Well, doesn't play like, but it looks very much like a Chrono Trigger, but it plays more like. It plays more of an action role-playing game.
So it's not turn-based. You're just like attacking on your own.
You're spamming a button, but the one mechanic it has is that if you just spam your button, you have a certain amount of power, and it charges up every time you attack. So when you attack, it'll charge up to 100%. If you spam the button before it's attacked to 100%, you only do that percentage of damage. So if you attack when it's at 50, you only do 50. Right. If you keep spamming it, you're spamming it at like, let's say 5%. So you're only doing 5% every time. So the secret of this is
the secret of mana.
The secret of mana,
yeah.
and pretty much the efficient way to fight things is you attack, let your sword charge up, attack again, let your sword charge up. So it's a little strategy there. You kind of have to time your attacks.
So yeah, I mean, if you're looking for a role-playing game that's a little bit more hands-on, play Super Mario RPG. But if you're done with that one, maybe try the Secrets of Mana.
Yeah. Well, RPG's turn-based, whereas Secret of Mana is more real-time action.
Kirby, honestly, I don't really think Kirby should be on this system.
Yeah, see, especially 2 Kirby games.
Yeah,
one of them's a golf game. Kirby's Dream Course, it's a fucking golf game.
And the other game basically plays like the original Nintendo Kirby, which honestly, I'll just play that.
Well,
I don't really have a lot to say about this. I love Kirby, but I like the original Nintendo.
But they
game.
make it sound like it's a Kirby game, but the boxes is like mini games.
It does, but like when I was playing the one, like when Johnny 5 was over, and I was playing it, and I was just kind of like breezing through because I'm pretty good at Kirby. I was breezing through it because and mind you, I've never played this game before, but I've beaten like Kirby on Game Boy, both games on Game Boy, and I've beaten the one on Nintendo. So I was breezing through it because I was so good at those games, and like it was just like there's a couple different more options here, but I don't really see a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'll get back to it.
Are we gonna do like The Simpsons? Just say and the rest, and it's just
the rest. Well, Ghouls and Ghosts. This game is too hard for me. You didn't like the frame rate.
I didn't like the frame rate. I thought the frame rate, like if the frame rate was consistent.
Yeah.
Again, it just kind of has the same problem that Star Fox has. It almost feels like it's a bit too much game for the system.
Right.
So the frame rate isn't actually very consistent. There's a lot of times because you have that kind of shifting landmass, the frame rate dips pretty low.
And it's a very unforgiving game.
Yeah, and for a game that's very unforgiving, you need really that the precise control, and the double jump is really weird.
It is.
Because you kind of like float.
Yeah, you
like jump, and then there's like, you have to let it, there's like a delay before you hit the button again, because if you do it again, it won't do it. Like, you have to kind of let them fall down a little bit and then jump again. So it's a little weird.
I don't have Earthbound here, but I've already said plenty of things about Earthbound. Let's move on to this last game, which is I think one of your favorite games. I haven't played it, but I'm looking forward to it. Super Metroid.
Oh, that's right. You've never played Super Metroid.
I have never played Super Metroid.
You will love this game.
All right.
For those of you who heard us talking about Samus Returns, this is a direct sequel of Metroid 2, or again Samus Returns. This is the next game in the timeline. This is really the starting point of that whole Castlevania, Metroidvania kind of design craze. Iga took Metroid and essentially made a Castlevania with it. So that's why you kind of see everyone, when they talk about these Castlevania games that come out, they call them, or even games that are not, they call them Metroidvania, because this is essentially where it originated. Big open world, but like, you're backtracking, it's side scrolling, you have all these secrets. This is one of my favorite games as well. Next to Mega Man X, this is a really well-designed game.
It's got an alien vibe to it.
It's got a very alien vibe to it. It's got really a lot of small details that are really fun and really cool. There are some one Easter egg. Well, actually, I won't spoil it for you. You'll actually think it's cool.
Right.
There's a lot of things that happen in this game. You revisit old enemies. The opening, if you haven't played the opening of this, I say play it.
All right.
It's probably one of the best openings in a video game ever.
Right. A lot of people say this is the best game in the system. So.
Yeah, this is probably one of the best games in the system. It really does have a great opening, and you get a lot of backstory, and kind of fills in a lot of the. If you haven't played the other Metroids, it really brings you up.
One and the second one.
It brings you up to speed really quickly, but it does so in a really great way. Again, I can't say enough things about it. It probably go as long as my Mega Man X rant.
Right.
But this is probably the peak of Super Nintendo design.
Right. Where they kind of knew what the system.
They knew what the system can do.
Offer,
There's a lot of graphic, things. There are a lot of things graphically that they did with this 16-bit system.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't recommend this game highly.
Yeah, like a lot of current games are owed to this. Like I'm playing Blaster Master Zero on my DS, and like that game's awesome.
And I mean,
but it's great. A lot of it, you can see the influence of Metroid in that game.
Yeah, and it has really great sound design. It's got really great music. I mean, playing Return of Samus, they use a lot of the music from Super Metroid in there. Like they revisit that in certain areas, and it was just great to kind of hear that music all over again. This game can be a little difficult. Just because of the way the bosses are designed. It's really, a lot of the bosses can be a bit difficult. But if you have the right equipment and you spend your time exploring, because this does reward backtracking and exploring every inch, because the more missiles and energy you have, the better you're off. Some of the items are they're kind of a little one use, but for the most part, this game is really great. It's got a lot of little secrets. There's secret techniques you can use. Like, for one example, if you have a super bomb, you can actually equip the super bomb and equip a certain laser.
Yeah.
Like, let's say you equip the super bomb and the wave beam, just have those equipped together. Your wave beam will take on a kind of like a certain aspect of the super bomb. Like the wave beam, like you equip the wave beam in the super bomb, and the wave beam will be like these kind of circles that go around you.
Right.
You equip that, and let's say another a charge beam or something. It's like another again. It's a different beam every time you equip one singularly with the super bomb. There's a way to drain all of your missile and super bomb health and regen your health. It's like a secret method. It's really cool. Again, I can't recommend this enough, because again, I would say this is peak
Super Nintendo.
Peak Super Nintendo. I would say this and Link to the Past.
Yeah.
Or peak of what the system could do.
System could do, how epic it could be.
And actually really peak design here too as well.
All right.
I mean, this is Nintendo at its best.
So there's plenty of games we haven't played on here. Like we said, there's like 21 games on this thing.
Yeah.
And we've only like really scratched the surface. So like there's still Donkey Kong Country, there's still Earthbound, there's still Final Fantasy 3, aka Final Fantasy 6.
Super Mario RPG.
Yes, yeah, Super Mario RPG, Yoshi,
Super Punch Out.
Super Punch Out, which I've touched upon Super Punch Out a little bit. I played a little bit and I had some fun with it. Me and my friend Bert is actually really good at it. And he has never played it before.
What?
He just kind of understood the mechanics.
Super Punch Out?
Yeah, Super Punch Out. There's a lot of boxers that do illegal things in there, too. There's one guy who tries to jump on the turnbuckle and kick you. We're like...
This ain't wrestling, bro?
Yeah, it's like, this is a boxing match. Like, I was like just screaming at the screen. What is this? He can just kick you? Like, why don't we just bring a gun to the ring and just shoot him? There's another one.
There should be a cheat code for you to do that.
Well, there's this one portion of the game where like you're just clobbering a King Hippo type character, and you're just like wailing on him. There's no rounds in this Punch Out either. You're just wailing and wailing and wailing.
You're just trying to knock him out, right?
Yeah, you're just trying to knock him out, and like I'm just sitting here like, man, if this was a real boxing match, someone would have stopped it at this point. It's like you're murdering that guy.
Yeah, it's fucking weird. But
the Super Nintendo Classic is a very fun system, guys. You should really check it out if you can get your hands on it.
Yeah, if you can get your hands on it. Yeah.
But keep in mind, if you want to get it, you got to show up.
Yeah.
Vic, our friend Vic Rules here mentioned that his friend went just to a Toys R Us and like they just had like a whole pallet full. And they were just selling something at noon.
I heard that the Toys R Us, I think in Glendale, had like 100.
Really, all the way in Glendale, huh?
Yeah.
They're really trying to recoup that like bankruptcy cost.
I mean, really, certain stores had a lot on hand.
Yeah.
I know the Walmart we went to the first time around, the Palmdale.
Yeah.
They had 38 units. Only 22
people showed up. Yeah.
Which was funny because all the other places that were open, like 50, Best Buy and Target and GameStop, they only got like between 20 and 30 systems.
Yeah, and Johnny 5 shared with us because he called the Best Buy in Burbank. He said that 200 people showed up, but the workers there, the employees there, said like they only had 80 to hand out.
But that's still quite a bit.
Yeah, that's still quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
But 200 people showed up.
I'm actually glad we didn't go to that one.
Oh, me too. We had the opportunity to do that because like
we were right there.
We were right there, but we were just like, you know what? Screw it. Let's just do I don't want to rely on that. Let's just go to Lancaster or Palmdale and grab it twice.
So yeah, I would highly recommend this. If you're a fan, if you grew up on the Super Nintendo, or even if you just want to play some really great games and you never had Super Nintendo, I would say this is peak Nintendo at its best. Design decision. I mean, even Super Metroid, Super Mario World, Mega Man X, Castlevania are really some of the best games on there.
They're really tough, guys. Though this is back then when they didn't pass out trophies for participating. And there's no trophies here. You just have to beat the games.
And honestly, I know we talked about this. We were joking actually about this with some of the guys in line. Like if they would release a 64 classic, I probably wouldn't get it because
those graphics haven't aged very well.
Those graphics haven't aged very well, but also I think a lot of the design in those games that was a major shift into 3D, and I think some stuff kind of got lost.
Yeah, I would say PlayStation did a little bit better job than N64.
Well, and the thing is, like, I know we were talking about between Link, how I was saying Ocarina of Time is a remake of Link to the Past.
Yeah,
I think the shift to 3D kind of Zelda lost kind of. I think the shift to 3D, Zelda lost quite a bit of that kind of secrets in every kind of corner because there was a lot of space in Ocarina of Time. A lot of empty space.
Yeah.
Like, even that beginning area when you're riding to Hyrule Castle, there's this huge field, but there's nothing there. It's all just empty space. Yeah. And it felt more like this is what we can do with the 64. As opposed to like, no, let's actually fill it with cool stuff. Yeah.
I think that's a problem when a lot of 2D platformers, or not platformers, I guess 2D games, when they make the transition to 3D, it's like the idea is to give this huge open world, open experience. Like you can go anywhere, but then like there's no point of going here.
That's what I kind of felt like with Mario 64. Yeah. Honestly,
that's what I felt like when I played my first 3D Castlevania, which was on the PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't really enjoy it. I mean, I was actually really close in the past. Like when I went to get back into video games, it was either PlayStation 1 or N64. N64 was on there because and I kid you not, one of the games was Castlevania. And the other one was, Superman 64. I'm a huge fan of the animated series.
It's a good thing you didn't get it.
And I ended up getting the PlayStation because I wanted to play Resident Evil and Final Fantasy.
Yeah, it's a good thing you didn't get Superman 64.
Yeah.
Dodged that bullet.
Yeah,
buddy.
I did. Also, it was cheaper at the time, too. So it's like, well, it's cheaper. I can get more games now. They're going to come out with a bunch of wrestling games that I'm going to play.
I had that same dilemma, too, when I got my PlayStation. I was like, should I get a 64 or should I get a PlayStation? I was like, I'll go with the PlayStation.
Yeah. And with the N64, I think they're going to have a tough time releasing GoldenEye.
GoldenEye's going to be tough
because it's owned by Microsoft.
Yeah, Rare's owned by Microsoft, so it's going to have a tough time there. Although Microsoft might let them get away with it because it's such a well-known game and also just to kind of drum up interest.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It'd be a tough sell. I think actually not only will it be Perfect Dark, not only would it be GoldenEye, it would also be Perfect Dark.
Yeah, Perfect Dark.
Rare made Perfect Dark, and
they own the rights.
And they own the rights to it. And actually, anything that Rare made, which is all the games that people love on N64, GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, Banjo-Kazooie, Conker's Bad Fur Day. I mean, all those games are owned by Rare, so it's going to be hard for them to get it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't feel like there's going to be that much demand. I don't know if they're going to do a 64. Although I did hear a rumor that they're going to do a Game Boy Classic. There was a rumor that they did a trademark for Game Boy. And somebody's saying that would be cool, but the problem with the Game Boy is that it's going to be a tough sell. If it's going to be a tough sell because it's a monochrome screen.
Yeah.
But imagine if they did a Game Boy that was not only just Game Boy games, but also Game Boy Color.
I mean, they could do that, but like the main game would be on there is Pokemon.
Yeah.
Now I'm a huge fan of the Game Boy. That's my favorite system. It's the one system that I bought on my own, and like I love playing it. But the version of Castlevania, like there's a game called Castlevania 2: Belmont's Revenge, which is the sequel to the original Game Boy version. It's a great game, but I have to play this hacked version because they actually fix the speed problems with it. Because like Simon Belmont walks in this like extremely jerky pace, and I can beat the game with that. It's just a lot harder. But like someone came in and like did a ROM hack of it where they made it okay. Well, we'll just make Simon Belmont move exactly like how he moves in the normal Castlevania games. It's still challenging, but it's a lot more rewarding when you play it. You know, with this like speed hack that repairs sort of his way of walking. And the reason why they did that is because the original Game Boy worked off of that LCD screen. So if you're playing it on the original Game Boy with the non-backlit screen, it'll seem okay. But if you play it like, you know, on something that has a backlit screen, it seems very slow.
Yeah.
Like the frame rate's off. But that's about it. I mean, maybe I'll get the Game Boy Classic.
I would get it. It just depends on what they got on there.
Yeah,
I haven't bought too many Game Boy games on my 3DS from the Virtual Console, so I'd actually probably look into getting it.
Right. I bought a lot because I love the Game Boy. Yeah, that's about it. Like, follow us on Twitter at IncognitoBro and at Chucking Dice. Share, like, and subscribe and all. Maybe I don't know if we're gonna get into the SNES Classic. You know, after this, I got to put it down for a little bit because I keep on playing those games. I mean, they're fun games, guys. But you know, we'll have something else ready for you next time. Got anything else to say? Augmented Biscuits?
Yeah, don't touch my SNES Classic.
Yeah, don't touch mine either. All right.
All right, thanks, guys.
Keep it rolling, guys.